Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this weekly ag weather forecast brought to you by Farm Credit. Well, this morning we know we got pretty chilly, and this was the reason why. We had clear skies overnight, high pressure sat right over the top of the southeast, and the front that came through us early in the weekend made its way all the way out here into the open ocean. Look at that. That's as far south as it made it down into the Bay of Campeche. Now, light winds, clear skies, calm conditions, rapid cooling of the surface temperature, and that's actually a process called radiative cooling, and that's what dropped our temperatures down all the way down to a frost in parts of the Appalachian Mountains and the Blue Ridge Mountains. Now, what we got to be talking about for the most of the middle part of this video is this. This is Lydia. And Lydia is combining with another area, a tropical depression 16, down over here off the coast of Mexico, and is expected to have the moisture of this getting pulled across into the Bay of Campeche, into the Gulf of Mexico, and across part of AgSouth's territory. Now, the only other part of this whole pattern that's going to be active is way up here across the north. So we need to see what this does to our precipitation later in the week, where it's going to be falling in parts of the southeast up to the Carolinas, and what these temperatures are going to do after this morning's very, very cold morning. Now, to set this all up, I want to talk about recent precipitation. Our second map here, looks back on the month of September through the first 8 days of October. And what happened here was something that, I'll be honest, I kept saying wasn't likely going to happen, and it did happen. And that was we developed drought. Now, we didn't have a lot of indicators that we were going to miss out on this much precipitation, which is why every Monday I kept saying, well, even though it's looking a little drier, is it really drought? Well, we went drier to finish summer and to start our fall time period. And much of AgSouth territory was quite dry. Our wettest areas ended up being the driest areas from summer. I'm talking about this part of North Carolina, for example, or even up into Virginia. But you can see the precipitation ranks down throughout the southeast, the Tennessee Valley, the lower Mississippi River Valley, and even up here in the Ohio Valley, eastern Great Lakes, parts of the Missouri Valley. I mean, there's a lot of major river systems in the United States right now that have been quite dry. And you can just see where the ranks currently sit here. Now, because of that, we watched the drought monitor expand into this part of North Carolina, South Carolina, and pockets of Georgia as well. So this maybe is, I'm not trying I'm not trying to justify what I said by showing, well, it's not yet on the drought monitor, but we haven't developed full-blown drought across this area. It's just been very dry to finish summer and start fall. Now, for many, that's been outstanding for fall harvest, but we don't want to run the risk of going into a winter with dry conditions around. Now, as you look across the country, about 60% of the land area is in some form of drought. That would be from D0, called abnormally dry, all the way up to D4, which would be exceptional drought. But the reality of it is that only about 40% of the land area is in that D1 to D4 category. But some of the driest spots, like look down here throughout this whole part of the cotton belt, or look throughout the Midwest corn and soybean belt, and even on some of the harder winter wheat in through here, some very dry conditions. Same thing for the Pacific Northwest. But to show you what that soil moisture looks like, this is the latest 16-inch or 40-centimeter soil moisture percentile. We have a lot of our Midwest, the Mississippi Valley, and now this big section of the Southeast that's missed out on a lot of precip when we watch those soil moisture values go down. Now, there is better rain coming through here, and we're expecting heavier rains. Let me just kind of lop this off. There we go. In this whole area in the next 7 days. But the lower Mississippi River Valley in through here is not expected to pick up much. And I want to keep this narrative alive and tell you what's going on here. Because the Mississippi River at Memphis, which is after the Ohio River gets into it, after the Missouri River gets into it, we're now looking at flows that are 10 feet below low stage. And so this is causing major problems on the river. There's been numerous barges that have been broken up because they've either gotten too close to shore and hit the land, and also it's pretty tight because the river is so very, very low. And we have questions as to when this major river system is going to recover, because even though you may feel 1,000 miles away from it, what happens on that river affects North and South Carolina ag and Georgia ag. So I just want you to be aware of what's going on right now in the Mississippi River. Now, I told you we have some precip coming. It's going to miss this part of the Mississippi, but this is the main area that I'm watching. This animation, let me take it back to this morning, shows us what's up. Here's the deep low. This was on Sunday, forgive me, not Monday, but this was on Sunday. The deep low that brought in the colder air. And you can actually see how clear it was. That helped with our frost earlier this morning. But what we watched all day on Sunday was this extended cloud feature here. Now, if you notice, as I play back and forth, it's moving. That's important. That tells me that whatever happens with Lydia, which is here, and Tropical Depression 16, which is there, and as they come across, they're going to have a lot of wind shear to interact with here, which means very low chances of this building into a hurricane, at least based on what I know today. But we're going to watch to see where this goes as the moisture gets pulled across Mexico and eventually hits some AgSouth territory. Now, the two systems we're keeping an eye on, Lydia, currently a tropical storm, and Tropical Depression number 16. There's nothing brewing in the Gulf right now, but we're going to keep an eye on this flow. So we still have this branch of the subtropical jet that's getting wrapped into the deeper load that's going to sit and spin here over Ontario and Quebec for a few more days. In fact, it's going to be dumping some snow up in this area. But that's the first thing that's going to drag this system, across the open areas here into the Gulf. Next, this is what's going to be pushing in to the northern tier of the United States. We're going to question how much of AgSouth's territory gets missed by some of this rainfall. So let's start putting this whole picture together. First, what are the chances in the next 5 days of tropical depression development? So remember, it goes tropical depression, tropical storm, then hurricane. That's all based off wind speed right now. Well, I'm going to take you back. Here's now, today. As we play this through the next 5 days, you can see it building there. Okay, so this is the corridor over which we're going to have to watch. The latest update from the WPC suggests that we could get down here in southern Georgia, into Florida, maybe parts of South Carolina, some places easily picking up 1.5 to 2 inches of rainfall. It's going to be all along the Gulf Coast. And it's just getting pulled by the stronger jet stream level winds in this area as that low pressure center elongates right into this region. Now, what you also saw was the polar branch of the jet diving in like this. And that's why this whole corridor is going to be lit up, and we're going to watch a midweek storm system come through parts of the Midwest. Now, that's going to dump some good rain on the headwaters of the Mississippi, but notice, from southern Illinois almost all the way down to New Orleans, we're not talking about much until you get almost down here to New Orleans. And then you notice this. There's this corridor in between where the chances of getting rainfall is least. In other words, if you just start in Raleigh and drive north, your chances increase, or drive south and your chances increase for getting rainfall. But tucked away in North Carolina, we're looking at continued drier conditions. So let's go have a look at what the models are suggesting as to the timing and the amounts of this. So I'm going to go right to the European model. It's been our best performer, so let's stick with it. Deep low, here it is. We're going to continue to get that cooler weather wrapping around it through Monday into Tuesday. And by Wednesday, there's Lydia coming across. Here's the initial pulse of moisture coming across. And remember, the jet stream winds are taking it right in this direction. Now, you notice through the beginning of this week, nothing. We're not talking about any precip. But here we are on Wednesday afternoon, getting into Wednesday evening, getting into Thursday early morning, Thursday through the morning. And now you start to see the heavier rainfall coming into parts of Alabama, Florida, southern Georgia, and parts of South Carolina. Now, that's going to continue through midday Thursday, in through the morning on Friday before it gets out. Now, that's the heavy push of moisture. Here's Lydia, what's left of it. Here's what's left over on Friday around 1 o'clock. And there's now a deep low pulling into parts of Iowa and Minnesota. How do these interact for the weekend? Well, we just see the front kick it all out there by Saturday. So if we just rewind this again, watch. Pulse of moisture coming out of the Bay of Campeche. Here's Lydia. And this all gets brought in mid to late week, right in through there. This is Wednesday through Thursday, Wednesday through Thursday. Then we get into Friday. We watch the new low show up, scattered showers still left in the area. Front clears by the weekend. All right, that's 7 days. Beyond that, the models do another deep low over the east, another shot at some cooler air coming in. In fact, we're going to spend, I think, most of the rest of October with cooler conditions now. So if we add all this up, just looking at the near term, let's focus in on the southeast and play this forward. So here we are through Monday and Tuesday. Just barely a chance for a scattered shower coming through on Monday into Tuesday morning. Maybe coming into this area, but not much. And then we see this. There's the push of moisture coming through. That's through Friday. Now, as we look out here, there are parts of AgSouth territory in Georgia and South Carolina that are looking at 2 to 3 inches of rainfall possible. That's how much moisture is getting shoved through this area. And if we just keep playing it forward, there you can see the front clearing by Saturday. See it? And that brings the chance for some scattered rain into South Carolina and North Carolina. But overall, we're drier north and much wetter to the south. So if we finish this out, not a whole lot's getting added as we play out the rest of the next 10 days, meaning that some of the drier conditions we've been experiencing in North and South Carolina are going to continue, but much wetter down here in southern Georgia overall. Now let's use this and look at the probabilities. Over the next 10 days, what are the chances of an inch? What we've got here is, we're 100% down here in southern Georgia. What about the chances of getting 2 inches? Now you see along that main corridor where that push of moisture is coming through, that the chances here are, 50% or better that we get 2 inches of rain out of this down here. On the drier side of it, this is the probability of getting less than a half inch. And now it's showing most of North Carolina overall. So a 10-day outlook through the 18th of October, showing us better chances of being drier Virginia and parts of North Carolina. Now, I'm just thinking about other places. Like look in the Southern Plains, look in the lower Mississippi River Valley, look at the Canadian Prairie, all areas that are showing up quite dry. Now, what's the pattern really up to, though? You see, I mentioned we're going to be seeing more cooler air coming through. Watch this trough ridge pattern evolve as we go through all of next week. There it is, or this week, through Friday. And then we get out there to next weekend. And this whole time period, did you notice it? See all the reds that were in here? This is a blocking high. So the jet stream's going to come in and dive around it. And that's what's going to keep us on the cooler side of things. But remember, you always want to find the trough, and remember that it's the exit side, which is over here, versus the entrance side that has the wetter weather. The entrance side of a deeper trough like this has converging colder air. That's why we see the drier signal out there. In fact, if you go out and look at week 2, we're drier, drier, drier in all 3 models. So whatever rain comes through now is critical for Georgia. It's not enough right now to undo some of the dry conditions we've seen over the last 40 days or so in the Carolinas. And after it goes through, we see drier conditions out there into week 2 as well. All right. Now I'm going to give you the long range on this in just a few moments. But before I do that, I do want to show you that we did have the frost advisories that were out for the Appalachian Mountains, the Blue Ridge Mountains down here. And we were just keeping a close eye on how cold those overnight temperatures got. We were expecting a frost right here along the ridge. And everywhere else in gray you see on this, we're having a frost this week as well. Now, it's actually a bit early for parts of the Midwest to have a frost this week. Normally, this part of the Midwest doesn't have its first frost until about another 10 days from now. But no one's talking about it because the crop is done. They're harvesting fast. It's been super dry, extremely dusty and dirty air because of that extent of that drought. Well, this is what the minimum temperatures are up to. So this was early Monday morning. There you go. Pretty chilly air in place. We then go into Tuesday morning, and Wednesday still have some cooler air lingering. But there's a buildup of warmth out ahead of that next low. Remember the big one I showed you showing up in the Midwest? And that warmer air will press east by Friday. But there's another front coming behind this for the weekend. So that got us through Saturday. Let's go have a look at the high temperatures. Cool start to Monday. We then see normal temperatures on Tuesday. Watch the buildup of some warmer weather on Wednesday in the central part of the country, and then trying to push its way over to us Thursday into Friday. But most of this week, we actually handle pretty average temperatures. There's a lot of 70s coming for us this week. But as you know, we're going to watch for a roller coaster ride of temperatures, and by the weekend, we cool things back off again. Now, overall, because of what I showed you with this pattern, we are expecting cooler temperatures more often than not. Here's your next 5 days. That's day 5 through 10, and day 10 through 15, which gets us out there at October 23rd. We see more days favoring cooler than average conditions going forward. Now, that's been a bit of a flip as well, but we want to ask, how long is that going to last? And is October an indicator for winter? It's really not. October is a transition month. It's a setup month. It's a month where we watch the evolution of things until we get to November and then see December. And when we start thinking out there that long, it's going to be other factors taking over, and let's have a quick discussion about that. First things first, though, the newest ECMWF forecast for mid-October to mid-November is favoring a lot of low pressure flanking North America. See it here and here. And if we zoom into the United States and say, show me what those precipitation anomalies look like, here's what mid-October to mid-November looks like. And overall, we are favoring a slight dry bias, which means this fall drought may expand before it gets better. And I do think it will get better, but it may be into November, December, January that we see some significant moisture coming into the area. So we are drier now, but the long-term water health of the Southeast is not in question. And I'll show you why in just a few moments. So I am seeing this though right now. Now remember, we are expecting heavy rain in Georgia soon, but North and South Carolina continue on their drier streak. Okay, here's why I'm not concerned. We've got several things at play. Warmth in the North Atlantic, warmth here in this part of the Pacific Ocean, a negative PDO signal, negative PMM signal, and El Niño. Now that's all a bunch of nerd speak for the jet stream is set up to deliver for winter. And one of the big key driving factors is actually half a world away in the Indian Ocean. You see, right now in the Indian Ocean, see all this cooler water? We're getting something called the positive phase of the Indian Ocean dipole. Now, let me explain to you what's going to happen here. Over this cooler water, there is strong trade winds. The air is rising over Africa, which is normally a desert right in this area, but now it's raining a lot. It comes back across the top of the atmosphere and sinks. So there's a lot of dry air here and a lot of wet conditions there. Now, see these arrows, they're in the vertical. So this is up and over, not north and over. And what's happening is out in the Pacific, we have sinking motion here, weaker trade winds, a lot of rising motion in this area, and it comes back to complete the loop. Now, what this does is this produces a lot of subsidence in phase 5, rising motion in phase 1, and rising motion in phase 8. And what is all that about? That's the MJO. So the MJO lives and rides over the top of El Niño. It rides over the top of the Indian Ocean dipole. And what I'm trying to tell you here, and I always get excited about this because I think it's fascinating, is that all of this influences the jet stream. It's going to get it moving. And what we're seeing right now is that October, November, December especially, are favoring an active branch of the subtropical jet. In fact, most of the United States is expected to see early active flow. And the newest European model says November, December, January, wet. December, January, February, wet. Now, what could blow this up? What could completely ruin this as a forecast? What would ruin it is if deep troughs of low pressure live here and big ridges of high pressure live there. And so that the jet stream has to go in between the two, robbing good moisture from this area. But if you take this high, this one I put here, and let's replace it way up here, it's game on. We will see this pattern. And right now, we're not just getting information about this being driven by El Niño, the Indian Ocean dipole, the warmth in the North Atlantic, the other factors in the Pacific. It's showing up in a combination of models. And the newest ones that just came out were the National Multi-Model Ensemble. You see their prediction for U.S. precipitation rate using all 8 of these models. See them down here? They combined it into one figure. And again, November, December, January, we have strong evidence of wetter than average conditions. If this is wrong, this is a major whiff by the models and by me, because I'm finding ways to make the models look like they are right. If there is something in this that is off, I will let you know. But I think the biggest driver of this is the position and strength of what's called the Madden-Julian Oscillation, the MJO. And this is what I'm watching. You see, for the next 15 days, see this? That shade of color going from today all the way to October 23rd says sinking motion here. The blue-greens for the next 15 days say rising motion. I'll put an up arrow there, an up arrow here, and an up arrow there. And I think we might see a pattern like this on repeat throughout winter. And if we do that, it is more favorable for big blocking high pressure centers, not over the southeast, but over eastern Canada, where I just moved that H on that previous diagram. And if that's the case, if it ends up doing that, we find ourselves in a better position to realize these rains during winter. And now I know it makes for a pretty crappy winter. But crappy winters sometimes lead into fantastic growing seasons. And let's get that moisture in place so we can use it next year. All right, one other place that wants some moisture is down in South America. Right now, if we look at the latest planting progress in Mato Grosso, they're above the 5-year average on soybeans, but not as fast as they were a year ago. They're off about 4.5% from a year ago. But here's what the forecast holds. Playing through the next 10 days, this is enough rain. It's not a lot, but it's enough rain to continue planting in this area. Where the flooding is down in southern Brazil, where it continues to be a problem. Paraná, Santa Catarina, and northern parts of Rio Grande do Sul. Places that are going to be really late on planting are going to be over here in the east, including Bahia. There's a very important ag district right in through there. And by the way, if you're curious how big that little box I just drew is, that's like the size of Indiana. And so we need to watch this area very carefully to see how much rainfall gets into there and if they're delayed on planting. But most of the rest of Brazil is off to a good start. My biggest problem area, in fact, let's just go here to a new tab. Let's go to Grace. This is a satellite-based measurement of moisture. And the biggest problem in root zone soil moisture is that area in most of Argentina, now entering its third year of drought problems. We thought El Niño would help come in and correct this, but not yet. It's not done it yet. So they're starting off in spring drought in Argentina. It's had a major influence on winter wheat, and here we continue to see it causing problems with spring crop planting. So I'll stop this here, but this is what we're going to be watching over the coming days and weeks. I'll keep providing you new information on that long-range forecast as I get it, but in the near term, you need to be watching Mexico as the source of moisture for your system late this week, especially in southern Georgia. Okay, I'll stop there. Have a good one. Thanks.